I think Trump's overall approach in the second term, which reflects a lot of what he said in private in the first term, but for various reasons didn't himself say publicly, is costing America dearly in international affairs. It's not simply the tariffs. It's not simply Trump's evident favoritism toward Russia and trying to broker a ceasefire in the war in Ukraine. It's the way he treated Volodymyr Zelensky in the Oval Office at the end of February, or Cyril Ramaphosa of South Africa a few months later, or the fear that many leaders have of calling up the White House now for what reaction they might get, and it's torn the efforts built up over decades, really in public opinion in many countries around the world, where the U.S. through decades of effort had tried to build up feelings of good faith and trust and reliance and confidence, and Trump's behavior is shredding that. Now, I think I'm optimistic. I think and hope it can be repaired, but I can't deny the damage that's being done for no good reason. It did not have to be this way.
If relations between India and the US turn even more hostile during the rest of Donald Trump's tenure, what happens to the famous China plus one policy of global supply chains? And of course, the very big, ask of the US of containing China.
Well, I think it does a severe blow to a lot of it. I mean, just to take one example, Trump has said publicly he thought Apple had made a mistake by moving some of its production facilities from China to India, and he wanted them moved to the United States. Well, Republicans used to believe in free markets, that when we have an adversarial relationship with a country that has national security implications, that's one thing. But if Apple wants to produce in India rather than China, or Vietnam rather than China, that's a net plus. But for Trump, it doesn't meet his vision of what the tariffs are going to do, which is move more manufacturing back to the U.S. Economic reality is going to set in there as well. And he'll see that since he does have only 3.5 more years, there's not going to be large-scale capital investment in the U.S. solely reliant on the prospect of tariffs remaining high, because a new president could sweep them away, or the court case that's now being litigated that Trump didn't have the authority to do this to begin with could eliminate all these tariffs by the end of the year.
Trump does not want India to buy Russian oil. Now, Russia has been a strategic and a trustworthy partner of India for more than 5 decades. How do top officials in US or Washington expect India to abandon such a relationship, especially as we never know which way Trump will swing next? Tomorrow he might just say, okay, if a deal fructifies, he might say, I'm going to trade with Russia.
Right. Well, I think the more likely outcome is a bad U.S. deal with China because of Trump's desire to make the biggest trade deal in history, which is what he tried to do in the first term with China unsuccessfully. I mean, I think there are the U.S. has legitimate strategic reasons to say to India, the Cold War's over. We understand the exigencies of the Cold War, but those days are past, and India's interests don't lie with Russia over the long term. That doesn't mean you can snap your fingers and the relationship ends, but in terms of sophisticated weapon systems and so on, this is an important variable. And combined with that is the fact that what is growing, not perfect yet, but what is growing is the Beijing-Moscow axis. They've talked about a partnership without limits. China's obviously significantly increased purchases of oil and gas to help Russia in the Ukraine conflict. They've laundered, sanctioned Russian financial assets through their system out into the international system. And I think China has big designs on Russian Asia. So India, facing the problem of China along China's Indo-Pacific periphery, much like the United States does, is in a real bind as Russia comes under greater and greater Chinese influence, and should be an incentive, at least in our view, for India to continue to move away from Russia. I think what Trump has done with these tariffs is set that entire process back a significant way, and has caused many people in India to say, what is the United States doing? It's a fair question, because many in the United States are saying, why is Trump doing this?
Do you believe the tariff deals that he signed with EU or UK, for instance, or Japan, are likely to lead to lasting trade stability or investments into the US?
No, I don't. I think these trade deals, among their other defects, is that they're largely illusory. The commitments to invest or purchase American oil and gas are not enforceable. They're not. This is not a written treaty, and the EU, for example, doesn't have the authority to order its member governments or European companies to increase their purchases. Hopefully, they will, but there's no force behind the promise. But most importantly of all, nothing is stable with Trump. I mean, if there's a case worse than India's, unfortunately, it's probably Brazil, which has a trade surplus with the United States. But because Trump doesn't like the way the predecessor to the current president of Brazil is being treated, he decided to hit them with especially hard tariffs. He threatened Thailand and Cambodia with higher tariffs if they didn't come to a ceasefire on their border dispute. So I think for Trump, it's not a question of establishing tariff rates, whether you agree with him on tariffs or not, and I do not agree, but it's not a question of establishing the rates and then proceedings. He uses the tariffs as a club to get what he wants on any issue, whether it's related to trade or not.